What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Imperfect, the show that we talk about all things imperfect, but we do strongly believe that we need to be the best human beings that we can possibly be. Today, I got one of my best friends in the fucking world today. How are you doing, Garrett fucking Johnson?
Bro, I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good.
Yeah, bro. It's good. It's good. It's been a minute since I've seen you. I've been gone for a minute, but I'm just happy to finally see your face again, brother.
Yeah, bro, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a fat minute.
It's been a fat minute, bro. We got Garrett Johnson. We have some real shit to talk about today. Some very, very heavy real stuff that I am just not excited to talk about, but it's real and it's raw and it's things that human beings, imperfect human beings, go through. And I just thought as soon as it started happening that we'd go through. And by the way, just a background on Garrett. He's literally one of my best friends. He will be one of the 4 guys in my lineup, which I love this guy that much for my wedding. Like, yes, dude, that's how much I love this man. But also, you are going to school. What is the actual term of what you're going to school for?
Yeah, so I'm going to get a bachelor's in political science, and then I have an emphasis in pre-law.
Yep, so, that's right. So and then you're gonna after you get your undergraduate from here, you have to go get a master's, correct?
Well, it just depends. I can go to law school, or I can go get my master's in public administration. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do yet.
What are you leaning towards?
Initially I was leaning towards law school because money, and I like law. It interests me. The only thing is just the market's flooded with lawyers right now. So I don't know. I think just the MPA is a little bit more versatile, but at the same time, like you can do a lot with a law degree. So it's just kind of up in the air. See if I get scholarships for either one. See what I get on my LSAT.
And go from there.
And go from there.
Take it slow, but at least you know like politics is your thing.
Oh, for
sure.
What
I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You have the direction of what you're going.
Yeah, that my end goal is to run for some sort of office, Mm-hmm. I just want to be a public servant, be
Hell yeah, dude.
Voice of the people type deal.
Hell yeah, dude. All for it. I love you. I love what you're doing, bro, and I think you have a lot of great morals, religious-wise, personal-wise, politics-wise.
Politically wise,
yeah, politically wise.
That, man.
Yeah,
dude.
I love everything you're doing, so I hope that goes good. But the reason we're still both in college. We're still little younglings. We're still dealing before we get to these great places that we want to do, run businesses and change people's lives and all that kind of stuff. But as being these people, we do things like date.
Yeah.
How was dating?
It was an experience.
It was an experience.
It was an experience.
It was an experience. It's rough, dude. Like, we're gonna talk about, mainly about what happened with you and your ex-girlfriend and things like that. And it sucks because it's just one of the things that nobody benefits. You know what I'm saying? It's a painful thing, and and all that kind of stuff that we'll dive into. But it's hard. And I just thank you for coming on the podcast so we can talk about these imperfections and talk about all these kind of things. But let's start off from the top. Let's start off from the get-go and the fun stuff. How long have you and your ex been dating?
We were dating for 2 years, approximately.
2 years, bro.
2 whole years. I met her the end of my freshman year, end of my freshman year here, freshman year of college. She was actually, it's a crazy story. She's actually talking to my friend Jake. And we all went snowboarding, and we went to my buddy's house. He has this big, nice house up in Jackson, and we were going to go to Targhee. And I remember we just clicked, even though she was another guy. I was trying to be respectful. I wasn't, stepping over bounds or anything. Just trying to be, a nice guy. Just
hanging around, kind of feeling it out. Oh,
yeah. And then there's this situation. We were downstairs, and Connor's the name of the guy who has that big house. Mm-hmm. So we're downstairs in Connor's basement, and she was like, I was like, I'm hungry. And she's like, oh, me too. And I was like, let's make some chicken nuggets. So we just went to Connor's freezer, just started going through all his food. We were laughing, having a good time. We just clicked, man. We just hit it off, and it just went from there. Just like any other relationship, starts off normal. You don't start off a relationship thinking it's doomed. I mean, hopefully you don't. I mean,
exactly.
Don't do that.
Yeah, the relationship's not good if you start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you started off solid, and you guys started dating, that's a pretty cute story. I mean, how long were you guys dating until we met? Until we started working the same job together?
Actually, I think I met you a little bit after. Yeah, I met you a little bit after. I met you that summer. Right. The summer of my freshman year. Because we worked for grounds. Right,
so maybe like a month or two you guys were dating or something like that?
Couple months, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, so I definitely got to know her, and at the time I thought she was, I guess in a way still now, a good person, or you know, for what it is. But the thing is, you know, you guys went on 2 years dating, which was pretty solid.
Yeah.
I love that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff. A lot of my relationships ended year and didn't really get much higher than that, you know, until it was awkward because I was single and you were dating.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point, obviously,
It's-
when we say ex-girlfriend, that I'm about to get married.
Yes, you
and
are.
you're single.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
All the turntables, man. It was funny. I remember, like, in the beginning, like, I had the girlfriend, and you were all about being single, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, don't get tied down, man.
Yeah,
And
I was like, relax, yeah.
and I was telling him, I was like, dude, you're gonna find a good girl one day, and then bam, you know, I met your fiance, and she's
Yeah.
awesome. I love her to death, man.
Oh, man, I know.
Got lucky, for sure.
Yeah, for real. I mean, we were friends for years. 2 years before we even just started dating, and it was just kind of one of those, like, wake-up calls, like, you want to try dating? You know, we were hanging out all the time. Like, yeah.
I feel like that's the best way, though.
Yeah,
You know, you gotta be friends first.
Yeah, because I think all the other girls that I knew first was not by being friends for years and or time or even knowing each other.
100%.
You know?
You go in with the wrong intentions. Like, for example, Tinder.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem nowadays. With dating.
It's very, like, I don't know anybody
Yeah.
that has been dating or that, like, started dating off Tinder and then has I mean, it's possible. I know one couple that met on Tinder and are still dating to this day. They're married now too, but they've had their own issues too. And I don't give credit to Tinder, but I mean, it's just like, I think that a lot of, because you're not establishing things, especially at the bat, that you're kind of just like hooking up.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like that weird, like, are we friends? You know, and some like, especially if you like hook up before you like really know each other, like even like their last names or something by heart.
Yeah.
And the next day some other girl hits you up, you're probably gonna, you know, do stuff, and that's gonna cause issues down the road because like, oh, we were dating when you slept with somebody else, but like, really, were you? And that's the argument.
You know, that's Tinder. It begins. It's so petty. I mean, you're just scrolling through these guys or girls, and you're judging them just solely on their outward appearance of whether you want to talk to them just because of the way they look, and that within itself is getting it started off on the wrong foot.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. I mean, you're you. Like, if you want to do that, great. But I mean, if you want to find a long-lasting relationship, that's just not the first place I'd recommend to go to.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, and if you want to get laid, that's cool, but I don't know. I mean, that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah. No, but yeah, you were with your ex-girlfriend for 2 years.
Yeah.
And what happened, man?
So, I mean, I guess we can start from the base. So what happened at first, just like with any relationship, man, it was great. Like, we hung out. We didn't hang out too much. Like, we weren't, like, suffocating each other. We were just kind of, she had her own place. Like, she lived in the dorm in the same building as I did.
Right.
So we weren't too far away. And then we kind of started moving fast when things started getting more serious. You know, of course, like, we slept together pretty quickly.
Moved in together
Probably, like, 5 months, which I do not recommend. And you know, we were in a dorm together,
right?
And so it's just a small area. We're around each other 24/7. You know, it's a guy's floor. You know, so I mean, that's a cool story. I'd have to like sneak her into the guy's shower and we'd shower but so yeah, and so like I said, things are so great in the beginning. Like, I mean, it's beautiful, man. It's like for example, like it almost seemed like a fairy tale. The way I asked her out, we had this favorite restaurant downtown. It's called El Heredero's. Mm-hmm. And as we went there, we always would go there when we were just kind of in the beginning stages of hanging out. You know, she'd always order chimichanga.
Oh, heck yeah.
You know, we loved the chips and salsa there. It was like our thing. We would like throw you know, you get the little thing off the straws, maybe like throw them at each other. But, you know, and then so the way I asked her out was because I changed her, my friend Connor's number, like his name on my phone to "Will you date me?"
Oh,
so he called me,
and
I was like, "Hey, look at this," and it said like, "Will you date me?" So she could either swipe yes, the answer, or no.
Oh,
and she swiped yeah.
Oh shit! See, that's the cute, bro. That's the cute stuff.
It was cool, man. And ever since it just took off, man. We just clicked. We were like best friends. We had the same humor. Like, you know, of course we were attracted to each other. She's beautiful. She's still beautiful. I mean, I still love that girl. Always love her. You know, I don't have any animosity in my heart towards her. You know, I moved on, and I'm grateful for what happened. But anyway, so yeah, so you know, we move in. Things start getting a little bit more serious, and I think that's a good segue for this part of the conversation. So when you move in with someone, you really start to find out who they really are.
Exactly.
And I think
100%. Yeah,
and it's a different. You see them in a different light because you see them at their most vulnerable point.
Exactly.
And when you when you first start dating, it's kind of like I use the analogy of a tree. So it's like you see a tree in the summertime, it's got beautiful leaves. You're like, oh, that's a gorgeous tree, you know. And then the winter comes around, and all its leaves are falling off. So if you fall in love with the leaves and you don't fall in love with the roots, it's not there.
What meme did you take that shit from, bro?
I don't. My mom told me that.
Dude, I've never heard that shit. That's why I'm asking. That is good. That's a good ass way to explain it, bro. Because if you are driving through a town and you see that beautiful tree and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you maybe come back every summer to see that town and that tree. Yeah. But if you don't stick it, once you see it 24/7, you might not like it as much.
And that's the thing, man. And so I was a little bit in love with her roots, metaphorically. Like there's parts of her that I was like, God, I love you. You're so cute. Like, we connect on a different frequency. Like that's the biggest part of a relationship, is meeting each other on that frequency. Yeah. And, you know, and especially this day and age with, it's just all technological, you know, you're DMing people doing this. Let's just go to bars. Let's go party. And, you know, old days, like, you write her a letter, or you'd be like, hey, you want to go to the prom with me? Let's go get a milkshake. Right. And nowadays that's just, you know, it's just fast tracked. Mm-hmm. So anyways, we started getting serious, started seeing different parts of her. She started... I think she just started realizing that maybe she didn't want to be in a committed relationship yet, because she was only 20 at the time. I was 21. I'm only 22 now, but so then she started doing things that I was a little bit uncomfortable with, I'm not going to lie. But at first it wasn't like a controlling thing. It was me just being like, voicing it gently. I was like, hey, that's a little bit weird. You know, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, you know, messaging her ex-boyfriend, doing this, like deleting phone calls, deleting messages, having secret conversations on Facebook. And I was like, hey, you can do it. Just be honest. Like, if you don't have anything to hide, like, it's fine. You know, I'm not going to go through your phone. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. Right. Well, then it just became like a compulsive thing. Like, you know, she would just lie about everything. And then I started getting insecure. Right. And then it just started compounding. And these little white lies became these big, giant elephants in the room that we never wanted to confront. So there's always that tension. Yeah,
that can be bad, yeah.
And that tension led to animosity, and then the real feelings started coming out in these fits of anger, right, on both sides. We would both say things that were just should not have been said. Yeah. And then you know, fast forward like a year, this is just continually going on. We're having fights where, like, you know, we'll break up for 2 days. Like, I mean, you were there. It was toxic. It was bad. It was unhealthy. But we were so desperate to not be alone. Yeah. And that's how it is in college, man. Like, I feel bad for college students, especially in this generation, because we have technology and we're surrounded by people, but we're still so alone. Yeah. And that's why so many people nowadays are depressed. Yeah. It's sickening.
No, I totally agree. And, like, I think you hit on the nail when you're just like, you know, it gets toxic, and it gets to a point by not confronting those things that it gets really, really hard to, like, genuinely, like, level with someone and understand their situation, because you're like, there's so many other things you haven't addressed yet. And I think especially when I knew you, it was, you know, it's like I was so 50-50, because every time you guys were together, you were so high on life. Yeah. And you were doing great, but every time you guys were getting an argument or fight, like, it was real shit, and, like you said, those real things were said and that shouldn't be said. And I was like, maybe you guys should just, like, break up. But it's so hard to tell you, because I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, break up with your girlfriend, you know, like, blah, 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 blah. But I also don't want to be the guy be like, stay together, when I just watch you guys, like, you know, make each other unhappy. That's, you know, and so that, I think a lot of maybe your family and friends and a lot of people felt the same way, because that's pretty much any relationship. It's like, how much wrong needs to be done until you finally voice your opinion and tell them, like, you shouldn't be together, or at least advise them to help something. You know what I'm saying? And it did finally. I was always like that, you know. And I don't know if I was right or wrong to always, like, kind of just not stand by, but kind of just, like, you know, whatever you're feeling, like, I'm just gonna have to agree with. But yeah. Obviously see where it ended, and maybe we should have voiced up earlier or whatever. But, you know, obviously I'm not in charge of your relationship. I can't watch over you anyways. But it's just hard, you know, because it is such a hard situation to see somebody struggle with somebody that, you know, they genuinely love. Yeah. You know, like, my mom has genuinely loved people down the past that I didn't like, maybe as a stepfather or as a person or XYZ. But at the end of the day, when I see them taking care of my brothers or taking care of my mom, and that's what needs to be done, that's what it is. If it makes her happy, that's what it is.
When you're in that situation too, like, and I think you hit it right on the head. It's like you have really high highs and really low lows. It's just like a drug. and you're addicted to those highs, and you're like, oh, but when we're together, things are so good, like
Yeah.
they're better than good. But when
So
they're
you ignore the lows. You know?
yeah, and those lows get real low. Like what goes up must come down. And I stopped trying to. I was just so desperate. I was like, oh, like I wanted to stay in this situation because it felt good for someone to love me.
Right.
Because I didn't love myself.
Right.
I
And
didn't.
that's a big one too.
Yep.
Don't even overplay that. Like if you do not love yourself going into a relationship or taking care of somebody or any, like if you do not love yourself, there's literally like there's so much work to be done there before you even like involve other things. Like
Amen.
I think that's totally on the ball because loving yourself is hard. And sometimes it almost feels impossible to love who you are, what you look like, how you act. And it's always, always, always those nights that you're home and you're like, why don't I do this? Why don't I have this? And you're like so conscious of it, but you don't know how to change it. You know, it's almost like how I feel about anxiety. I am conscious of anxiety when I'm especially in the market and I'm like, oh my God, I have to leave. Like, I just feel all the anxiety hitting me right now and I want to leave the building. But it's like, I can never, like, how do I know it's there and I can't fix it? You know what I'm saying? So same thing with this. It's like, how do I know like this is wrong with me or I feel like this is wrong with me, but I can't fix it. That's a hard place to be, but it obviously takes research, learning, growing as a human being, and the best of all, talking.
Exactly. You need to have an outlet. You need to have friends, outside sources, because when you're in a relationship with someone, like just like with me and my ex-girlfriend, there's always that line you don't cross, because if you cross that line, you both know there's no going back.
Yeah,
of being
exactly.
Like, hey, where is this going? Like, do you actually love me? Like these really hard questions that the elephant in the room. You're like, man, I don't want to go there. Because it's just so good. It's just so great. And then, like you said earlier, my family members, my friends, everyone around me was like, hey, they said she was a bad person, but they're on the outside of the situation.
Yeah.
I don't really think she was a bad person. She was just a 20-year-old girl still trying to figure out what she wanted, and that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I really want to make it clear to the viewers that that's okay. If you're in that situation, whether you're a guy, girl, non-binary, whatever you are, in whatever situation or partnership that you're engaged in, it's okay to not, if it's okay for them to not want you, like to use you as a stepping stone. And if you actually love them, you'll want to see them grow.
Exactly. That's the worst, when you see a toxic relationship end and it's that person's fault and that person's a piece of shit, and it's just like, you know that they didn't grow. You know, like that is, and maybe they did in some ways. It's hard to say, but it's like, you know for sure a person did grow, really genuinely grow when they can, like, especially just get out of a relationship, or at least like just a little bit of time, a week, 2, 3 weeks, a month maybe.
Yeah.
But when they get out of that relationship and they say, oh my God, like, this does suck, my feelings are hurt, and I, like you said, like I was the stepping stone for that person to find this person, or to fall in love this way or do XYZ, but I'm happy for him. Like, it sucks that you were the person being stepped on, but it's hard. I mean, that person's a better person, so it's
that's the biggest thing right there, man. Because even though you feel like you're being used in that situation, it's actually a blessing in disguise. So when you're that stepping stone, you have time to sit back and reflect and be like, hey, like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then you have time to work on yourself. And then once you work on yourself and you start to love yourself, it's almost like dating yourself. Like, I go to the movies alone. I sleep at night all by myself. Like, I go to class by myself. I do everything by myself. And at first it's hard because you're used to having that like validation of someone there being like, I love you, holding your hand, kissing you. Like, if you see something cool, you're like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
But when you're single, you can enjoy it for yourself.
Yeah.
Even now, sometimes I'll go out for a hike or for a jog and I'll just watch the sun come up and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm alone. Because this is mine. This is my moment, and I can put that in my memory bank.
You can remember it with yourself because you loved yourself and you found those things. But at first, I bet it wasn't easy, especially when you're like, you're so used to somebody, like sleeping in the same bed every single night and asking if they're hungry every single night, making food for two and all those kind of things. And then you get to a point where you split up and now it's like, damn.
There's a void.
Like, it's kind of, and like you said, it's hard to feel, but it's like, if you learn to grow from it and let them go and you care for yourself and you wish the best for them and you grow yourself, and like you said, take those walks, and eventually the void will start getting filled with your own self-love.
That's exactly right. And it's really hard, like, for my situation, and like to kind of give you guys, the viewers, a little bit more background on that. The way it ended was, like I said, it started getting bad. I started getting controlling. And I started to be like too far with it. Like like for example, a real world example, her best friend was like, "Hey, do you want to go like Lake Havasu for spring break?" And like a normal boyfriend, like, we're young, like someone that's not insecure, someone that's not jealous, someone, and if you're in a healthy relationship, like I trust you for sure. Go have fun.
Right,
I want
right.
you to have fun. But I had a gut feeling. I'm like, I can't trust you. And so I legitimately told her no. And that's a huge problem. That's controlling.
Oh yeah.
And before, like, as you know, I would have never admitted to that. But that's the process of growing. So these things started happening, and she started, going to her outside sources too. And her parents and friends were like, he's controlling, he's toxic, which they were right. They were right. And because we drew it out so long, she eventually ended up cheating on me. And I was like, man, like it sucked. And the way I found out was terrible. I was talking to that guy's best friend at the bar, and I was like, yeah, my girlfriend works there. And he's like, oh, what's her name? And I was like, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, my best friend's dating her. And I was like, huh. And then just recently she made a post on Facebook that they've been dating since January 1st, and we didn't break up till like March. So I was like,
Yeah.
like, wow.
That sucks. And it would be so easy to sit here and be like, fuck that that
Yeah.
person for,
Yeah.
doing XYZ
Oh.
and getting her. But we talked about this long before the podcast, but it's like it to sit here and do that, it would be one way to take on it, but like you said, one of the biggest things, it's a two-way street. You know what I'm saying?
It is 100%.
And so like you said, like the controlling, and it's like it it's hard to say whose fault it was, left or right, because like you said, there was an elephant in the room, and again, it was two-way street for one of you guys to bring it up and talk about it and actually get real deep and figure out some long-awaited things. But because it kept building up, because neither of you guys talked about it or got real about it, it led to this situation where it became trolling, and she, felt controlled, so she wanted to find other ways. Now, I don't think it's ever right to cheat 100,000%. I would in my mind, I'm thinking, I would have the balls to go to my fiance and be like, I'm out. Like, I'm done. It's over.
Yeah.
And then go do whatever the fuck you want, because at that point you can. You literally, but that, like, the person you're with, you're promising yourself to them. So every minute of every day, they are expecting you to promise yourself to that person, and you commit to that person, and you love that person. So if you want to go do all that shit, you just have to take the balls and 5 minutes of your time to say 2 sentences and saying, hey, I'm leaving you, and then bounce, and then go do whatever the fuck you want. But like, to be able to cheat, like, that's just, it's not okay, because you are breaking that bond. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this is the right way too, but I'm just saying at the fucking bare minimum, tell somebody in their eyes, to their face, that it's not working out. And you don't even have to explain yourself, but you need to let that person that you're cutting your ties, so they don't have to, like, they're going to worry, but they know that you're your own person again, and you don't have to be committed to me.
That's the thing, man. Like when you get cheated on, it's hard, because all you do at first is you blame them, and you're like, oh, they're the reason, like they're a bad person, they're this or that, and then you start to realize it just makes you feel worse. Like you start this sitting on this anger and this hate, and that turns to suffering and sadness and depression and loneliness. And what we really need to do is look at yourself and do some introspection and be like, I was controlling, I was toxic, I was insecure, and now that I'm out of that situation and looking back, I've changed so much, and it's a blessing from God. Like, I praise God every day. And I mean, and she's out there now and she's still with that guy, and they seem happy, and I'm so happy for her. Like, I want to make that very clear for anyone that's out there. I hope if you guys are in a situation where you feel like you're the controlling one, or you're being controlled, that person, like, you have to look at their background. And because some people see the world through a broken lens.
Yeah.
And they try to control things because in their life they never had control over anything.
Yeah.
And they're just scared to get hurt. And most of the time it never comes from a place of like, oh, I just want to control you because I like to dominate. And like, it's not what it is. It comes from a real place.
Yeah, because someone was hurt, and that's literally the key with, like, almost everything: abuse and pain and all those things. We are who we were taught and or experienced. If our parents beat us, we have a likely good chance we're going to beat our children. If we experienced a beating or something even more personal, I mean, those things you could pass on, because that's what happened to you. And so it is really hard to, like, look through the, like, someone cheated on you, not to be like, it's all their, all their fault to actually like look back and analyze yourself. This led to this because of XYZ. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many different ways this could have gone. I mean, you could have sat down, one of you could have like pointed it out, or she could have been like, hey, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, or at least tried. That's, me and you are kind of at a loss. I mean, you especially, because, you tell me everything that's been going on, but it's like, it sucks that we never to this day really got a why. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we all know that she liked somebody else and she did it, but like, why wouldn't she tell you? Why wouldn't she just leave you? Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was hurt. Yeah. Maybe she still didn't know until it took 2 months of dating somebody else to finally actually tell you to break up.
Yeah, I think that's really what it was. Like, I'm not to defend my my ex. It's just like, I think that she was still confused of whether she like truly loved me, and she didn't want to hurt me. And that's a lot of times when you're the cheater, you're in that position where you're like, if I tell them, I will crush them. Yeah. So, and also if you have like me, for example, if she were to tell me that, I would have freaked out.
Oh yeah.
Like I would have, I would have been so upset, and she would like been like, oh, I don't want that to happen. Like, I don't want conflict. Yeah. So she was just trying to take the path of least resistance, which makes sense. But
if you made that path or not, for her to take it or not, it's still, it's just so hard to understand. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you guys had your issues, but like I could personally know, like you guys, you haven't hit each other. No. You haven't been abusive. You haven't done all the things that are genuine red flags. There's some mental issues. There's some mental problems of how you controlled and how you handled things. But like you guys were just a couple 20-year-olds dating in college. Like it was just so raw, and you were learning.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Gage, because like I said, I really want to make it clear to your viewers that if you are that person, if you are the controlling one, if you get labeled the toxic one, it's possible to change. Mm-hmm. It's not the end. You're not stuck as a toxic person. Like, and God forbid, let's say if you're like you're an alcoholic and you abuse your spouse or something. Right. There's always a road out. You can always change, and it starts with one step. And it's really just admitting you have a problem. Just like Alcoholics Anonymous, you like, my name's Garrett, I'm an alcoholic, and you have to admit you have a problem.
You have to admit you have a problem. That's why I want to bring on the podcast, is because it first clicked in my mind, especially talking about these topics, is it wasn't come on here to bash anybody.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And everything you say, people would understand that, because it's what I love about this conversation is it's not she was imperfect. It was I was imperfect. Yes. We were imperfect. We didn't do these things. We didn't talk. And I think the biggest thing we're taking away is if we just discussed from the start genuine feelings about this and this. And I had an experience at the beginning of my relationship that I talked on Whitney's podcast, where I had to come up with, when she saw me checking out another girl, that I had to make a choice right then and there that I lie like most men do in most relationships, and just be like, no, honey, I wasn't. And then I knew though that would be, because I had so many girlfriends before that's my life, is they would see you looking and then you lie about it, and they bring it up again, and you lie about it, like, no, I wasn't. Oh, I saw you looking right about. Oh, I was thinking. You come up with any excuse. I was like, I had to make that choice right then and there to lie to her my entire life, or be honest. And I was honest, and I still am honest. And now I got to a point that we both have finally got on the level that, like, I mean, we're just human beings. Yeah. You're attracted to people. That's okay to be attracted to people and things like that. So we finally got to understand that situation. But more so, like, it's not the best. Like, I'm not saying this is like the best thing to do, anyways. Like, there's things that happen. Like, I think it did hurt her genuine like confidence a little bit to know that, like, I look at people. But it's like, what's more real? Like, we had to make that choice from the beginning. What would be better for us? And I decided that being honest with each other about fucking everything, even though it hurts. Even though to this day, she still doesn't like when I like look at a girl or something. Like, no girl ever would, and no guy ever would either. But we both understand, people are beautiful. People are fucking beautiful, and people look gorgeous. And if it's okay to look, what we've literally defined now, it's like, it's not fucking okay to go to a store and follow some hot chick around all the aisles, being like, damn, and talking to anybody, dude, check out that ass. That's not cool. But it's like, you're walking through and you see this gorgeous girl walking out of the market, you're like, oh, she's beautiful, and you walk in and you fucking go about your business. Like, that's a whole different situation, and that's what we're kind of leveling about. Okay, and what's not. Point being, in that situation, again, I talked on Whitney's podcast if you want to go see more about that, but the point being is I had to make that decision from the start, and that literally changed my entire life after, is because I realized that everything we ever talk about, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
No matter it hurts her or me, because that's one thing none of my relationships ever were. It was just always small things like, oh, were you looking? Oh, where were you? Or, oh, what did your mom say about me? And it's always like the little things that you're always like, oh, she likes you, and even though your mom's like, nah, I fucking hate that bitch, like, or something like that. But point being is, it's hard. It is really, really hard to talk about those very beginning things. And obviously, and I know, not just from your relationship that we're talking about today, I know from so many relationships before how me lying or me doing XYZ and we just ignored it and kind of just whatever it just always builds upon.
No.
And it built upon to be even worse things, and it built upon to, obviously breaking up in relationships. I've had those X amount of relationships that I broke up for XYZ reasons because I wasn't honest and talked about it.
Nope.
And so this relationship, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be real. I'm going to be raw. We're going to be honest with each other. No, we're not like, I'm not being, oh, we're 100%. Like, we're still not perfect. But I'm just saying for like all the times that I'm trying to be at, this is the path that I am trying to take, is be honest. You know what I'm saying? So,
oh, dude.
All that being said is, it comes back to the situation, that very beginning thing of just being honest and talking about if she did want to go to Lake Havasu or whatever, to actually stand like, you know what, this is what I want to do, honey. And we need to talk about why you don't think that, and this and this and this, or for you to do the exact same reason. Like, I don't like it. This is why I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
That it's super important. And it also, because you also touched, like, everyone's imperfect. And it's hard because we see in common culture today, like, for example, you see these movies like The Notebook, The Vow, things like that, and males and females and like in non-binary, everyone sees like this ideal relationship and they think that's what it's supposed to be, like no problems, no fighting, no like jealousy, none of this. And it's just not real.
No, it's not.
And like, for example, your situation, you're at a store, there's a girl, she's attractive, she catches your eye. You don't do it out of malice, but you're like, oh, she's attractive, and you look at her, and if Janie's like, hey, were you looking at her? But like, oh yeah, honestly, and you talk it out. And that's communication's key in a relationship.
Exactly.
Because once you put up that barrier, then that's when secrets start to be.
That's exactly it, bro. You literally hit it on. Like, I couldn't even say it any better. It's just that barrier. If you set up that barrier between that honesty, then you're defending already one lie for pretty much your entire life. Yep. And then it builds on to other things like, oh, like, how long were you checking out that girl? Oh, for like 2 seconds. Maybe you followed around for 2 minutes. Oh, like, I saw you talking to that girl. Did you get her number? It doesn't have to be that extreme. But, there's always those little lies that start getting barricaded behind that wall that you put up because of that very first time. And I think, again, Tinder is the exact same way. Like, or the exact same conversation, because when you're on Tinder and you're like finding people and you're linking up, you're already starting a bunch of barriers between each other by just like hooking up. And like, if you don't want to hook up with someone you're going to be with the rest of your life that you love, and it's totally okay, like, to do that and to have those things. I got lucky, but every single one of my ex-girlfriends were pretty much like getting together and then dating and kind of going like that, and it just started so many barriers because, oh, like, you hooked up with this person, but we weren't officially dating, and it's just like, it starts off wrong. You know what I'm saying?
And that right there, that's a perfect segue into, like, let's say you're a religious person, if you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Jewish, like, whatever you are, like, you have these guidelines of like, oh, like, no premarital sex. And like, there's just this idea of like, that's, you don't want to be promiscuous, you don't want to be lustful. So it's hard to live in the society that we live in now, and where like hookup culture is just so propagated. It's like, it's so looked up upon as like, and it's sexist. It really is, because if let's say a girl is going out and trying to explore things and she sleeps with numerous people, everyone's like, oh, you're a whore, like, you're a slut. But if it's a guy, everyone's like, oh yeah, dude, you're awesome, bruh. And it's like, that right there, that's a problem, man. Like, that's toxic. We have like, we're all equal here. Like, we need to realize, like, and I personally, I'm not for hookup culture because I think it's detrimental to our society. I think it takes away from love. Like, when you make love with someone, it's different than just hooking up. And yeah, sex is great, but like, since I'm Christian, I believe that God created us for a purpose, and I feel like you're repurposing what he wanted when you're just hooking up. And I'm not judging anyone. If you want to do that, if you think that's what's right for you, that's great. It's just not right for me. And I used to be that guy. I'm not gonna lie. Anyone who knows me that's watching this is like, oh, Garrett, like, what, dude? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, not anymore, man. People can change.
Yeah, no, people can change. I admit too, like, that was a lot of my high school life, and I was there with the guys, and you know, oh yeah, this is what happened last night, and you tell your stories, they tell theirs, and that's all it was. And I knew a couple girls that did the same thing. You know, they're like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I hooked up with the biggest jock or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, but at the main point, yeah, like there was a lot of that. Like I had girlfriends that would get in fights with their best friends because they'd call them a whore because of the amount of people they slept with, and there was like that huge culture around it. But I was too, and even part of college, like that's kind of the road I was kind of following, and then you know, it kind of took a step back. And to have a best friend that I kind of built this relationship with as friends, like legitimate, pure friends. And I had like, everybody has those girlfriends, you know what I'm saying? And I had a couple friend girls, you know, but it's like if they were like, hey, let's hook up, most likely back then, Gage, I probably would have. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
yeah.
even the ones that were friends. But I mean, my fiance now, like we were just straight friends. We had so much nerd stuff in common that like, it was just always this barrier of like, oh, we're just friends. Like we're just friends. I never thought even more of it because we were just getting along so fucking well. And then finally for her to pop like that question, like, hey,
What are we?
But we should, you know, maybe we should go on a date and kind of go from there. And I was a little bit like weird about it because it felt like, man, dating your best friend, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
But fuck, it's worked out so good.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
It really has, man. You struck gold.
Thank
you got
you, man.
lucky.
I love that woman. I love that woman a lot, and I do genuinely think you're gonna find a great woman too. Like you literally, I feel like because of this whole situation, what sucks ass, you actually did leverage so many great things. You learned a great deal. You feel a great deal. You know how to understand that situation and yours. You know the barriers to like take next time or the steps to take next time instead of going from this is how I'm feeling and I'm just gonna blurt out madness and anger rather than this is what I'm feeling, but I'm going to try to talk about these feelings to XYZ person, you know.
Oh yeah,
and fix them.
That's the biggest thing. It's just personal growth, man. Like it's just you realizing the problems, you taking the steps to do it, and also I think it's important to note that when you're there in that situation and like you're alone, that it's the first night's the hardest, right? Especially in my situation because I'm like, what is she doing? Is she with him? Is she engaging and you know? Is she fucking him? You know, like I'm just gonna say it. Like, is she fucking him? And then it just plays in your head, and then
it drives you crazy.
Drives you crazy, man. And then one day you just kind of stop caring because you beat yourself up so much that it doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. And now when I sleep alone, I look forward to it, man. Like I look forward to cooking, having my morning coffee, going for my jogs, going to the gym, reading my Bible, going to class, like hanging out. I'm on a podcast right now, man. Like it's great. Like life's great and I'm alone and it's okay to be alone. You don't have to have someone to complete you.
Exactly.
They should complement you.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think that's at the point. It's like, that's what I told you when we first broke up. Like it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard, but just like let life play. You're right. You're a big person of God and God will like show what, you know, you trust in God, you trust in your faith, things will fall into place.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? And so like if you trust your path and you do exactly that, you focus on yourself and then somewhere through this timeline there will be someone that comes through. You know what I'm saying? The perfect girl, the perfect person, whatever. We don't have to be looking for or anything, but just having an open mind and bettering yourself, and that way when opportunities do come you can pursue them on a much better scale. And that's exactly what I did. Is I had all that and I just kind of like stepped back and then like I wasn't even looking, honestly. Like I just was not looking for a woman. And then for my awesome, beautiful ass fiance, just like as friends, you know, whatever, just to be like, hey, like let's go on like to the movies. I'm like, oh, you know, with Landon and Tasha, you know, like no, like just us, maybe like a date. And I was like, you know, and it was crazy, but I was like, holy shit, this might be the opportunity that was just presented to me, and I took it, and holy fucking shit. Again, it was the right thing, you know?
When you say that, it's, I got to push back on that because it's easy for people that are watching this. Let's say someone has just recently been like broken up, they're heartbroken, they're watching our podcast right now. It's easy, like, because you're there. Like, you're in that situation, like, oh, you're going to find it one day. Everyone says they're like, one day. But what about now? How am I going to be okay right now? And that's the problem, that no one really talks about that, the in-between stages, and those what really suck, man. And
right, but that's what we would say that the self-love is, though. You know what I'm saying?
That's definitely part of it, you know. And like I said, and no one's perfect, and it's hard to do it by yourself because life is meant to be shared, you know. Like my advice to people that are in that situation is like don't go out to the bars, don't go out and try to meet people, don't be crazy, you know. You don't have to get drunk to have fun, you don't have to do drugs to have fun, man. Like go out and then have hobbies, go for a hike, go snowboarding, hang out with your friends, go to church, do, you know, whatever you want to do. And if it is drinking for you, if you and your buddies go out and drink, be healthy about it though, because I was in that situation after my ex left me. I went back down home to Wyoming, and it was that weekend that she had broke, like that whole thing had happened, and I got blackout drunk, made a fool of myself, was like crying, like everyone's like, who is this person?
Yeah.
You know, and my one of my best friends, Max, looked at me and he's like, I don't want you to be here, man. Like, you're bringing everyone down.
Yeah.
And at first I was angry. I was like, why can't you be there for me? Why can't you be there for me? And then I realized, I was like, man, because he can't fix it. I got to fix it myself.
Right.
But being around him, it's nice to have some support. Like with you, man, like I can't even begin to explain how much you were there for me, and like how much I appreciate that. You know, and like I know some guys will have that like toxic masculinity, and they're like, oh, I'm no emotions because I'm a manly man. Nah, dude, it's cool to cry.
Oh, 100%.
Like straight up, it's awesome.
No, 1,000%. You
know,
need to cry. You need to get those emotions out.
Oh yeah, you feel so much better, man. And that's another thing. Like we're talking about the walls. When you put up that wall of like, this is who I think I am. Like I'm not gonna let nobody get inside my walls. I'm gonna like protect myself. Then you'll never open yourself to new experiences. And that's where I'm imperfect right now. Because when you say like, oh, you can, you know, you'll find a girl one day. I truly don't believe that, because I have trust issues now. And I'm so scared that I've made all this progress, and that if I find another girl and it happens again, that's just, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And
right. But what I said is like, if you wait for an opportunity, you know what I'm saying? And then it's not waiting. Like I said, let me ask you this, like if you focus on yourself and you do your self-love or whatever, like, are you just going to you're just going to cut out everybody until you make it a point to go out and search? Or what I was trying to say is like, you're just like fixing yourself, and then when an opportunity comes up, you analyze it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Maybe like you're still going through all this, but maybe next week there's a girl that sits next to you in class and is like, hey, you know, and you're just like, are you gonna be defensive? Like, where are you at emotionally? Like, how would you handle that situation?
Yeah, so let me clarify that. So like what I mean by I'm imperfect is like, for example, like when, especially my situation, when you just get broken, like I've been like very insecure about myself. Like I used to be like so confident to the point where it was like cocky, and a lot of people didn't like that, so I struggled with that as well. But now I'm so insecure that people notice it. Like I don't mope around, but I don't have that energy anymore. Like I'm just a broken person.
100%.
And so I don't even like, I see girls, I'm like, oh, she's beautiful, like, oh, she's cool, like she's wearing a Nirvana shirt, I love Nirvana, like I should talk to her about Kurt Cobain, you know, Dave Grohl, like we should go talk about something. But I don't, because I'm scared of rejection, because I'm scared of pain. Yeah. At the root of it,
so you'll just kind of ignore it, just
yep.
Because I see what you're saying. Like you're at this pain, at this level where there's so much pain that it's hard. Like you said, the confidence factor is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even trying to get a number, just to talk to somebody, you're just like, oh yeah, thanks, you know, and you're just like kind of awkward about it, because it's hard to be vulnerable again, and that's another, you know, whole nother subject. But to be vulnerable and to be like, you know, having that chance of rejection is extremely hard. So to just kind of step away, like just avoid the rejection in general, you know, is a lot safer, at least until, you know, you fix these things, or at least work on these things until you get to a comfortable place. But since you broke up, you have, like, physically you've showed everything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been working out, you have been jogging, and you know, you hear about it, you're like, oh yeah, but like you physically see it. Like I saw you from old Garrett coming over here and drinking a couple of beers, playing video games, to now where you're just like, hey, let's go on a run, and I'm like, fuck that. You know, like, no, but like for real, like you physically have changed, and I know your mental state has changed, because you're asking, you know, you're caring a lot more about what other people are thinking, or how they think, or why they think. You're so much more curious, which is like you're trying to build your own opinion, you're trying to build your own feelings, you know, and try to fix these things, and that's important growth. And like when you see that, it's like, oh my God, so I know you're heading in the right direction, you're growing and you're getting better.
That means a lot to me, man. Like, and that sucks too. And that's why, like, I want people to feel franchised by this, because a lot of people feel disenfranchised when they're in a situation, because they don't have a platform like this to be able to explain, and no one can see like what happened, you know, especially when you're cheated on. And that is a bad situation, because, you know, it's either sometimes both people, like both parties, are like, oh, that she's a bad person, and they kind of manipulate the narrative. And then so everyone's like, oh, I don't really know who to trust, like, did that really happen, what's going on? And you just feel frustrated. But I'm past that now, and I'm to the point where, like, I'm just so grateful for my ex. And like, if she was like to happen to be listening to this, like, I would just tell her, like, you know, thank you, like, I still love her, like, she's amazing. and I wish nothing but the best for her because she changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, and that's the thing, you know, God works in mysterious ways, and what we see as like something that was sent to destroy us is actually sent to deliver us.
Exactly.
And that's, I'm just so grateful every day, man. I'm alive. I'm not paralyzed. I'm healthy. You know, God is good. You know, God's moving. I mean, talk about Kanye West. Look at Kanye, man. He changed his life.
Know.
You know, one of my favorite rappers.
Christian everything.
Christian
everything.
That's on God. You know, like, that's incredible, man. And he's one of my heroes. And that's also another thing that helped me get over is just inspiration. You know, like people like Kanye, like watching movies, writing, music.
Exactly.
You know?
And it influences those things. But that's a good start, bro. It's like finding all those joys in life, those things to look at and allow yourself to get inspired. And I would say the same thing. I didn't know her too much, but we of course had our double dates and hung out plenty of times. I think she's a great person. I don't like that, you know, this whole cheating scandal was no bueno. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I know you had issues. I know she had issues. And that's what, you know, again, you think about Imperfect. I have to say, like, I don't think any less of her just because you're right. She's young and she, you know, is doing X, Y, Z, and she may have had good reason to do what she did. I still don't think cheating is ever the reason. It would show me a bigger person to talk about it way before cheating even came an issue. But again, people are imperfect. You know what I'm saying? But and I'm almost happy it happened because then I see the growth in you as a human being, and as you know, I'm gonna finish my school. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna do these things and be physically and mentally better, which I think you're already on a great path to doing. You know what I'm saying? So like by seeing all that pain, it grows you. And I said the same thing about when Landon came on our podcast. We talked about the exact same thing. Me and him had experiences very similar, in fact, but we both had very traumatic experiences that changed our lives forever. But it's because of these experiences that I feel like we really became woke in so many different areas and helpful and things like that. Like I would never be sitting here talking about being imperfect. I was the same fucking way. I was a confident, happy, energetic. Yeah. I never got deep enough to really think that or whatever, but I just naturally was all through high school confident, energetic, and this and that and that. And you know, to talk and sit down about imperfections and things that we all have would just never be something I would see myself doing. But here we are. You know, we are all imperfect, and that's the thing I keep saying about the imperfections aren't negative, man. I mean, these imperfections like help grow us. They fuel us. These imperfections that you had in this relationships, I guarantee the next relationship, however long it may be down the road that you get into, is going to be 1,000 times better. Yeah,
I mean, I one of the biggest things too is like I just learned how to appreciate a relationship and appreciate, you know, like that person, and like be able to realize like, hey, this person's giving me their time. Like I need to respect them and realize they're an individual as well. Because it's easy, like that was really my first serious relationship I'd had like in high school, like 6-7 months one, you know, like go over watch movies at her house, and then she's like, we have to break up, my parents said. You're like, I'm gonna kill myself, you know, like. But that was hard, and it was a big one, and so I was learning, and that's okay. Like guys, that is okay. Like
100%.
We're young, like, you know, and if you're not young, you're still young at heart. Like even if you're 80 years old, you're still learning something every day. Every
single day, dude. The learning never stops. You need to grow and learn and educate yourself every single day. That's the whole thing. It's literally the very first episode of this thing, of this whole podcast is. You need to learn to grow. It is okay to understand that you are imperfect and okay to have imperfections, but you still need to thrive and be the best human being. You're right. Like 80 years old, there's still things that you're probably doing that you still need. There's going to be things that we are going to work on our entire lives and die that will still never get fixed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Quote unquote fixed, because it takes a lifetime to build upon these and just make them better.
Amen.
A fucking man.
A freaking man. Yeah, just like one last thing. Like I said, if there's anyone out there, I hope you guys know that there's people you can reach out to, and you don't have to, you're not on your own. Like if you're in a relationship and you're sad and you're thinking about suicide, or you're thinking about these really dark things that you normally don't, or even if you're not broken up with and you're still suicidal, yeah, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to whoever you can, because we're all humans. We're in this together. This life is not a race. Like life is something that we should all be cooperating in to like, we want the betterment of humanity. We want to raise everyone up and not just have me up here. Talking
to other human beings is literally life. Like that's literally everything. And understanding that someone poor or someone rich, everybody gets dealt with different set of cards. Just
Mm-hmm.
because a poor person, has to fight for money and to live and things like that. And it's hard. This is a terrible analogy, but rich people do have. It's like you said. Like you said, I feel like you say this ideal this poor person maybe struggles to find money to pay for XYZ bills, but they have the heart. They have the perfect heart where they care about other bill. The kind of poor person that gets $5 and gives $2.50 to the next poor person. You know what I'm saying? And like actually builds like that's different than a rich person that may have all the money in the world, but then they don't have that heart. They don't have that core. They don't have that real passion or the actual genuine human being, and because they don't have it, we all get dealt these different cards, and it's like there's 52 cards in the deck, and maybe we only have 15, and some are broken and some are bent, but your end goal is to have a perfect deck of 52 in all things of life, of giving, of health, of happiness, of building other people, and all these things that you just get. Everybody gets dealt because we have different experiences, we have different parents, we live in different areas. Like the way you live and get raised is so much of your human being. If I take a baby born in America and go give them in some other country, that baby's not going to grow up the same way or have the same beliefs than they would here. You know what I'm saying? So it's taking those cards and rebuilding, you know what I'm saying? And it's hard because some of these people don't have the option to rebuild. I mean, a poor person, they can't just get money or change a mental state of mind to get money, and that's where shit gets hard. And that's why us as human beings that do have some of these cards can maybe pass down a card and be like, here, let's help you fucking get up here. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, it's not about being high or low. It's about everybody trying to find that same path and wavelength.
Yeah, it's a mentality, man. And it's like I said, it's really easy for someone like me. Like I come from a place, male privilege, white privilege. It's easy for me to come from a place of privilege and be like, oh, like, why don't you just get a job? Why don't you just go to school? Why don't you just do this? Well, you're not in their shoes, man. Like you don't know their background. You don't know their story. You don't know the years of oppression or whatever it is behind them that's holding them down. And it is our civic duty as fellow Americans to help each other up. That is what being American is about. Give me your poor, give me your needy. Like that is what America is about. And like that's, if we're gonna kind of touch on that a little bit while we can, like Donald Trump, like there's like, it's important to not be super partisan and be like, oh, I hate Donald Trump, he does everything bad, because he doesn't do everything bad. But there's one thing that he does that is thoroughly un-American, and that is like the immigration policies that he propagates. Because technically, like, I believe we're all immigrants. Honestly, we're all immigrants. Like, yeah. I'm European, like you're European. There's people from Africa, people from Mexico, people from Spain. Like,
right.
That's what America is. We're a melting pot, and we should embrace our diversity.
Exactly.
We shouldn't look at people as like a threat. We should open our borders and be like, oh, well, that's a burden. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Even if it is a burden, that's fine. Let's take care of them, because that is what being American is about.
Exactly. It's about being selfless and helping each other and one another. The greatest in power and the lowest in power, the richest or the not richest. It's helping everybody to find that middle ground. You know what I'm saying? And being proud, like you said, of what we are and what we should be. Is we should all, every single human being should be selfless and help the next person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
that's what's gone wrong with humanity, man. We just mind, stay away. Not my monkey, not my circus. I can't tell you how many times I'm not perfect either, man. Like, so I'll walk down the street and I'll see a homeless guy, and I'm like, and I'll have that brief, I'm not gonna lie, I'll have that brief moment in my head where I'm like, why are you there?
Yeah.
Why are you homeless? And it's terrible. But that's just how you just get brainwashed to think that, and like, well, don't worry yourself with that. Like, life's too short, like, to worry about everybody else. Just have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's why the world's the way it is.
Well, yeah, it's like, I think it's like an album. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you should have a couple bops on your album. You know what I'm saying? Have some good times. Live your life large. But, there should be so many other songs that are talking about real meaning of life and why you're here and what you believe in and what you should do and things like that. And you're right. Like, you may question, because who knows, that person could have been like a CEO of a company and then ran it down and started drinking and beat his family and went through the court system and got spit out, and now he's homeless or whatever. Could be, but it is, like we said before, it's about talking to these human beings instead of just like throwing money out the window or just being like, oh my God, don't look. How about you just walk up to them and maybe have a conversation? You know what I'm saying? And just
let me ask you that question. So if it was a CEO, and like, let's say if it's a drug addict, let's say he beat his wife, let's say maybe he was a murderer and he never got caught with it. Do you think that he should still be able to have a second chance?
I do. I feel that's
he or she.
Me and my fiance have the same conversation about, not to go out too political, but like with the death thing. It's like if you had someone that did commit a murder or something 50 years ago, and they only have maybe 4 or 5 years left to live, and maybe we decide to let them out, and maybe we let them out and they make a difference, they devote the rest of their life to changing people, being happy, fantastic, or maybe they go out and kill again. But it's like that risk is obviously why we just keep them in jail, just for that risk. But if they did inspire and help and praise and be the good people and the people that they may deserve the second chance to have, why wouldn't we? You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard. You're right. Like that CEO, should they have a good chance or not? It's like Jordan Belfort. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, literally like going through that whole system or whatever. And now, like, you know, I don't know too much of what he's doing, but I know he has a whole like talking and speeches and kind of like teaching people not to do what he did, which is like make all this money and blow it on hoes and bitches and all these things, you know, like, you know, do all these kinds of things to better his own life, you know. And now it's, I don't know, you know, it's just that thing. Do people deserve the second thing? It's that whole cancel culture. There's so much that plays into it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it's like at the end of the day, it's all about one thing. What's the risk of that person committing it again? You know what I'm saying? And that is so hard. And I know so many people are like, nope, keep their asses in jail or never give them a chance again, because they might. But it's so hard not to question, like, what if they did good? And what if they took their power for good? And what if they genuinely, in their human heart, change and do make a difference? How great would that be? So it's just, you have to weigh it situation by situation.
Well, look at our criminal justice system. Compared to other criminal justice systems in the world, our system is based on punishment and not rehabilitation.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, for example,
Drug addicts go to jail rather than getting rehabilitated.
And that's the and you can there's easier access to drugs in jail. And the thing is, like, okay, let's take the African American community. They are thrown into these like terrible living situations, so where like they're forced into a life of crime. They go to jail, then they have a criminal record. They can't go to school. They can't get FAFSA. So they're forced into this sick, vicious cycle that we put them in.
Exactly.
And I know it sucks, because I used to be that guy. I used to be that super conservative dude from Wyoming that was like, oh no, like, you know, just work hard. That's what America's about. And I'm like, well, it's hard to, like I said, admitting you have a problem, admitting we're imperfect. Like, slavery happened, guys. Let's be real. Slavery happened.
Yeah, shit.
Colonialism still impacts people to this day. You know, like, what about them? Like, we got to care about everyone else, even if it means like sacrificing some of my well-being to help others. That's what it means to be Christian, and that's what it means to be an American. Yeah. You know, and this is one nation under God.
Yeah, one nation under God. We seriously need to help each other in every single walks of life.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And I'm not perfect either. It's not like I'm out at the soup kitchens every day, you know, helping homeless people or things like that. I'm still finding my way and how I can make a big impact and try to help people that I hope other people are thinking as well, is genuinely, how can we help our human race, our human beings?
Isn't that crazy, man? Sometimes you just get caught up in this cognitive momentum to where you're focused on, like, oh, my career, like going to the gym and this and that. You don't even realize, like, what's
the world going on around you.
Yeah.
You know, you have to take it. I think that's life, man. Take a step back and look at it all. But Mr. Garrett, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a good time.
It was real talk. It's always so interesting, you know, to bring a guest on and talk about these kind of real topics and see what kind of things we can find. And it's like, even me, every podcast, I feel like I'm genuinely learning so much, and like to hear your story and to hear these things, you know, because I've made my mistakes, and in one way or another I may have been on the other side in your and her shoes, you know what I'm saying? And so it sucks that I didn't have someone as open to talk about this kind of things. And I know this is still recent-ish, you know, and it's still raw and it's still hard to get over it, but I genuinely am so happy that I see you growing as a human being, becoming a better human being, and all these kind of things, and I just wish the best for you, brother.
Yeah, man. Like I said, last thing, guys, in 1997, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh my God.
No, but for real, if you guys need help, don't be afraid to reach out, y'all. Like, I'm here.
You ever see that meme of a minigun, and it's like when you're about to roast somebody, but you stutter and all the bullets are falling out?
That's what I just did. I was about to be a mic drop, and then I was like, trying to make a beat on here. Shout out Kanye.
God. Well, thank you so much, brother. I love you, man. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys out in the next one.
God bless y'all.
Peace.